Hey, did y'all miss us? Because we miss you. Look, watch, like, and subscribe to our channel at Sister Sis 1988, as well as follow us on all our social media platforms at Sister Sis 1988. We are back with Miss Ruth and her wonderfulness. We're going to jump back into these questions, but again, let me introduce ourselves. I'm Jamie.
I'm Latoya.
And I'm Calandra.
And we are back, Miss Ruth. Miss Ruth, again, thank you for joining us on the channel today, and thank you for sharing your knowledge with our audience. So I'm just going to jump right back into it. And the next question I have for you is, what roadblocks does someone have when they are trying to find their purpose?
Okay, so that's a good question, because I think for people, for women, is that we spend so much time trying to, shall we say, keep things in order, keep our lives going the right way, and trying to pick up the pieces behind other people, right? I mean, so it doesn't matter if you're a mom. It's just, I think it's our natural tendency to kind of be like, oh, I got to take care of that, or I got to take care of this, right? And so, like, even like when you're working, right? If you've ever been an assistant to somebody, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I think that what we do is we get so focused on, shall we say, the hamster wheel of life. And this is a huge roadblock for us, because we get in that wheel and we keep going and we keep going. And what we have to do is we have to stop and say, I'm getting off, because that is keeping me from going forward. And whenever we find that we're not moving and growing and going forward, again, like going back to what we said before in the last episode about journaling and reflection. And when you get in your journal and you've been like, well, let's just say you've been writing for 6 months, and you go back and you reflect on what's been going on, and you go, whoa, I haven't done any growth. I haven't done anything to help myself grow. And then you go, this has to change. So then you have to like stop the wheel, get off, and get going on the things that are important.
Okay. What advice do you want to give someone who is having trouble getting off that wheel? Because you do meet some people. It's like you get focused. I would say sometimes I can get focused on something and I do forget the outside things.
Yep. No, Jamie, you're saying exactly what I feel like a lot of us do. Is that because we don't have, should we say, the accountability in our lives. Now, I'll just be honest with you. I think it's really hard for us as women to have accountability. I think that we live in a culture, we used to be in, like 50 years ago, I think that there was a culture in which you could have somebody that would say, hey, stop it, or what are you doing, right? But we don't live in that culture now. We live kind of isolated, kind of alone, unless we choose to have somebody in our lives. And so what I would highly recommend for anyone who's listening to this, find somebody that you can talk to about where you're at, like a friend. You can get a coach, anyone who's you're going to do an evaluation of yourself. Put some mile markers in your life, like besides an accountability partner, put a mile marker in your life where you're going to say to yourself, okay, every 3 months, I'm going to check and make sure that I'm doing X. Okay. And so then you decide what's going to get you off that hamster wheel, right? Because you've got to decide that you want it. And that's part of growing, right? If you don't want it, you're never going to do it. If you avoid it, you're never going to do it. You procrastinate, you're never going to do it, right?
True.
Very
true. What do you say when you say get you an accountability partner? Do you think sometimes it's good just to stay silent and work on it on your own if you feel like that's something that needs to be done? Maybe telling somebody might get that person out focused. What about keeping it to yourself sometimes?
Okay. So, let me rephrase what you said. So you're saying that it's easier if you just keep it to yourself than to tell somebody because of the focus.
But I'm saying, depending on the situation, sometimes it's good to get that person to talk to kind of, you have that person to vent to as you're going through that journey. But then you have some journeys that you might want to take alone and really not announce it or talk about it with anyone.
Right.
Do you feel kind of that balance?
Yes. And I think that that's where you have to evaluate again about where are you, right? So if you're on that hamster wheel and you just can't get off, then you need to say, okay, do I need to take some practical steps to get off this thing? And do I need an accountability partner? But if you got something like deeper that you just need to sit down with your journal and, and talk to the creator of the universe and say, "Hey, listen, I can't figure this one out. Say a prayer or whatever it is you got to do, right? Where it's just got to come from you, then yes. I mean, so I think that what you have to do is evaluate it. Evaluated experience is the best way to go through life, in my opinion. Because if we don't evaluate where we're at, then we often miss half the things that we're learning in life. So I think it's really important for you to evaluate where you are and then make the choice of which kind of accountability do you need.
Got it. Got it. Okay. You're kind of already been doing that throughout both episodes. So this next question was about your 6-month coaching and your teaching program. So can you kind of tell our audience how they could, if they were interested in doing that with you, how would they go about doing so?
Okay, so I have 2 different ways. One is I have a website that maybe we put in the show notes on, and you can just click on it, and then you can watch a video about the 6-month program, and then you can ask me any questions you want there, or you can apply for it. And so it gives you some different opportunities, and you can watch a testimony, if that makes sense, and just be able to apply right there.
And what is that website?
It's www.onpl3.com. So it's on purpose learning 3. So,
And we'll drop it down below as well
Thanks.
for you as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
But it's good for the audience to hear, so they'll be able to see that. Okay, Ms. Calandra.
Okay. So you also work with businesses. Can you tell us, how do you help companies build their communication and become more successful?
Okay. Yeah. So my leadership training and development and coaching, I help individual businesses work together and learn how to work as a team. So one of the things that I do is, I'm not a big quote unquote, hire me to come in and do a big seminar for you. I can do those things, but really what I like to do is to look at the team individually and be able to say, okay, what do you need? And so my number one thing that I help teams with is communication. And so I do a leadership communication where I help them to learn how to connect with each other and learn tools specifically on connection. And so again, I'm not a big seminar person. I'm more of a hands-on. So when I come into a business, we talk about what does it mean to connect, and then we do it. All right.
Mhm.
And then the other thing that I love to do is to help leaders learn the tools of what it means to lead versus manage. Being a manager is a very different thing than being a leader. And so oftentimes that's what happens in teams and in businesses, is that they rise to this leadership position and they're really just a manager. And that's not the same.
So how do you differentiate between the two, a manager and a leader?
Right.
Okay, good question. Yeah. Yeah. So a manager is somebody who's put in charge of a task to manage a group of people to get a job done. So depending on what industry you're in, that's what they're supposed to do. But when we ask somebody to lead, leadership is when you come alongside the group and together you figure out how you're going to go from point A to point B to point C. And we do it together. And we are creative together. We come up with solutions together. And we begin to explore things together. And then we don't just take on the leadership where I'm up ahead, you guys are following me. I mean, that's not the way anyone can get to the end. If you're going to get to the end, you got to get together as a team.
Gotcha. Got it. Okay. So the DISC assessment, I've kind of heard about it before, but can you kind of explain to us a little bit more how that works and how you utilize it?
Yeah. So the DISC is a personality assessment. There's a lot of them out there in this world. And the reason why I specifically use a DISC is because it's a lot easier for people to remember. It's 4 quadrants. It's D, I, S, and C. And in the quadrant, when you take the DISC assessment, you're given 2 of the top ones that evaluate kind of what your personality is. And you see, with personalities, we're all born with them. You can't change it. Now, can you alter it a little bit? Sure. Oh yeah, for sure you can, right? But you are born with that. And so it's really important that you understand what your personality is and what you were born with so that you can use it to your advantage. And knowing your strengths and weaknesses will change the way you lead. And when I say leadership, I'm not just talking about, oh, I'm going to be a CEO of a company. I'm talking about the way you parent. I'm talking about the way you're a part of your family of origin, and the way you are working in a system, and whatever kind of system that is, right? So I'm not, and when I say lead, you don't have to be at the top of a business. You can be in the middle. It's not, leadership is found anytime that you're interacting with other people and you are influencing other people. Did I answer your question?
Yes, yes. So also too, when you're using the DISC assessment, so do you use that like mostly when you're working with different businesses?
Good
Okay.
question. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So I use it all the time. Whether
Okay.
if I'm coaching somebody, then the very first thing, if they don't know what their personality style is, we go through the DISC. If I'm doing a team, like currently, I have a team that an employer. She has 2 people on her team, and she wants to have 6. And so we're going to do the DISC on every single person who applies for the job.
Okay.
Ah,
Okay. 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 Can you give us a few steps to stop procrastination?
Okay, this is a good one. And I actually had I wrote them down because I thought, oh my, I just put out like 2 different things. I did a blog post, which by the way, I'd love for any of you who are listening to join my newsletter, and I'll give you that one too if you guys can put that. It's a different address, so it's www.onplthree.com. So I just a little
And
little
we'll list it
different.
down below as well. So yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll-
Okay.
yeah.
So, but in that, what I try and do in my newsletters, I have a blog, and every month I blog on a different topic, because I think that whether you're in my 6-month coaching program or you are one of my leaders that I'm coaching through and I'm teaching, is that there are certain things that we do on a regular basis that are really hard. And so I try to hit some of those every month. And same thing with my newsletters. I send it out. So if you want to be on my newsletter, that's fine. I just sent out my June one, and it talks about fear, because fear is something we all have. So procrastination, back to procrastination. I'm not avoiding it, but procrastination is a place in which it's kind of an emotional state. So it's kind of a weird thing, because a lot of us say, oh, I just procrastinate. And the truth is that what we do is that our brain plays with our emotions. And what happens is when we procrastinate is different fears and insecurities pop up in front of us. I mean, you think about the last thing that you procrastinated about. You didn't want to do it, did you? And so I actually wrote an 8 point, so it's a blog thing on procrastination, because it's so important. And here's a couple of the steps. The first thing that I recommend is that you're kind to yourself. When you recognize that you're procrastinating, be nice, okay? Because some of you aren't. And recognize that you have just decided that whatever that thing is, you don't want to do it. And so you need to come to awareness. That's the other thing, is that be nice. And then the second thing is sit down, piece of paper, pen if you need it, and say, what's wrong? For myself, Ruth, why aren't you doing that? And then I say, oh, I don't want to do it because of, whatever. And so that's the second point, is come to awareness of what it is.
Mhm.
And then the third thing is that you're going to need to decide, are you going to address this with yourself or are you not? Okay. So if you decide you're going to address it with yourself, you're going to say, I'm going to do that. I am going to get this done. Then what you need to do is you need to decide a very small little step that you can take. Now, I didn't say take a giant leap. I said, take a small step.
Mhm.
And you just think of one little thing you got to do in order for you to be able to get to the next thing. So for instance, I had something the other day that I was procrastinating about. And guess what I did? I cleaned my desk. And I always know whenever I clean my desk that I'm procrastinating, because it's not that I don't like to clean my desk. This is not priority, right?
It's not for fun.
For me, that's a red flag. You think about what's your red flag. I get there and I'm like, Ruth, you don't want to do it, do you? No. I said, because the problem is that it shows my weakness. I mean, it's not it shows my weakness, it is my weakness. So it was actually, I had to contact this person that I was fearful of contacting. So I said, okay, what's the first small little step you can take? I'll write the email. Okay, write the email. You don't have to send it, just write it. I'm like, okay. So you can write the email and go have dinner. And then you come back after dinner and you reread it. You don't have to send it tonight. I just want you to prep for it for tomorrow. So that's what I did. And so when you are able to be honest with yourself, come to awareness of what's going on, don't be mean, and say, this is really hard. And what you're trying to do is in your mind, you're trying to make a little shift to say, it's okay, Ruth, you can do this.
Okay. All righty. Well, Miss Ruth, we have enjoyed you here today. Is there anything else that you would like to leave us with that we maybe haven't covered in episode 1 or 2?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you, ladies, for having me. I have loved this. And
Thank you.
you girls are fun. So, maybe I can visit you in Texas and Florida.
Come on down.
Oh yeah, I can be there soon, so maybe I can see you.
Where you going, Texas or Florida? You be in which one soon?
Oh, Orlando in August.
Orlando, that's right. You did say Orlando.
Yeah. So maybe we can figure that one out. But yes, and okay, so if anyone is, contemplating anything that I've said and you're like, oh, Ruth, I'm just not sure. I want you just to send me an email. Okay, I'm gonna give the ladies my email too. I'm not gonna say it out loud. And I want you to contact me because here's the thing. I believe in adding value to women.
Okay.
Do I make money sometimes? Yeah, but that's not the point. The point is that I care about women and I want to see them win and I want to see them succeed because I've been there and I've had hard things and I needed somebody else to help me along.
Right.
And honestly, that's how I became a coach, was because I spent all these years in ministry helping people and coaching people to become better than where they were at. And I knew that my heart was to care about people, and I care about women. And one of the things that we didn't talk about, but you might see me in the future, is that I am on a quest to help women become business women, those who are, in business, because women do not have mentors and so in business. And I want to see that happen because I was working in a profession of all men. And I know what it feels like to be in there and to be in that space and to be all by myself. And so, okay, that's another episode. You can have me come back for that.
That's okay. So, so if you have women that are looking for leadership coaching, how do they reach you? Is it at the same website? It's the same website?
Yeah. Go ahead. All right, I'm going to give you my email. Just send me an email.
Okay.
I mean, you don't have to be all formal. Just send me say, hey, I heard you on the podcast, and I'll be like, oh yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, Miss Ruth, thank you again. So,
until next time,
there is strength in sisterhood
and support in sisterhood. Bye.
Bye.